Alright, what's up YouTube? MCool40 here. I'm not retarded, and actually we're recording this
You're not?
correctly this time. Hey, you back off.
I think your fans are going to be disappointed to hear that.
Well, hey, you shut up over there, Simo. Okay, so, what's up YouTube? Just two Yugioh here.
Oh god.
Today we're going to be talking about link summoning, and the terrible format that everyone wants to kill themselves over.
Yep. That about sums it up.
Oh my god. Okay, so me and Simo were talking about the decks before my audio decided to not record. Simo, let's talk about Zoo again.
Yeah, let's talk about Zoo again and how much you just want to not talk about Zoo again. So to reiterate, for people who don't know, Zoo can still combo in Link summoning and do the standard Daigusto Emerald Trident opening.
No fucking way.
Yeah,
Science.
I know, right? Someone figured it out. I know, but so and this they have the OCG support, so we can't do it right now with what we have, but you know they can still do it as long as they have a special summon outlet, being either Barrage or Terror Top. They can pretty much still do the entire combo and end on a crazy board, just like Zoo does. So Zoo is still incredibly good in this format, even though everyone at first thought it was terrible. Yeah, Zoo is still going to be a thing.
But Dryden has 0 attack points. She's a balanced card. So there's been this misconception with Link summoning that everything is fucking dead. Everything is just shit. You know, Yu-Gi players need to be able to make 3 Quasars on turn 1 or else they can't quote-unquote have fun. And it's been a very common misconception with this format. And one of the things that I know we're going to definitely touch on in this video is obviously just because your deck might be quote-unquote dead, we don't think it's dead. We just think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a little bit more enjoyable now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having the game act as boss monster camp. I mean, for the first time ever in, 4 or 5 years, main deck boss monsters are going to be relevant?
Yeah, it's true.
Tell me the last time you saw Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning in a deck.
Shit all format.
Was it even good in shit all format?
Yeah, it was, because you would OTK with it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, you just held it until you knew you could just OTK with like Construct and all, and L shit all fusion and all that. But what I think is gonna be really interesting is like even like with the new dinosaur support, like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, like that card's gonna be incredibly good because of all these new mechanics now. Except for the fact like it doesn't apply, its effect doesn't apply to like Link monsters. But the fact that like something like that is going to be so much easier to summon than being able to shit out your entire extra deck makes it very relevant in a competitive format now. And it has, like, just a bunch of really good effects. It's like you mentioned Blackluster Soldier. You're going to see that coming back. There's going to be a lot of really kind of like these old boss monsters that might make this resurgence again.
I mean, you also have to remember, we'll go ahead and talk on the Dino deck now. You know, now you have to decide, do I want to make Logia or Dolka turn 1 as your only potential resource?
And that's really important because remember with Dino Rabbit, like, everyone started making Logia and then everyone realized, like, Dolka was better.
2 negates is fucking better than 1.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what's cool is the Dino deck specifically, you can like rescue Rabbit into like Dolka, right? And then you can still do like, you can still summon like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and do all this other stuff and have that Logia. And it's like, that's a really solid board, especially in this format where everything's so much slower. That's pretty formidable.
But the problem is though, like a board of just big Tyranno guy plus Logia is a lot easier to break than... What is it, Logia Dolka?
Yeah, of course it is.
Guy.
But considering for what the format is...
Oh, no,
like,
definitely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. For what the format is shaping up to be, having a negate or 2 effect negations is huge.
Yeah, that's one of the things that this problem is going to make really interesting, because decks in general, like, do you want to dedicate your 1 extra deck monster on the board at the time to a measly Castel to answer a card? You know, what happens once your Utopia the Lightning is just staying up there? Like, you can't remove it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I think there's going to... Even though the extra deck size is going to remain small, I think the dedication and things to your resource pool, until a format is more defined, it's going to be very high resource management.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's going to force people... It's already forcing Japan to come up with all these crazy ways to continue playing the decks that they like playing. Like, until people re-engineer, like, Burning Abyss, like, triple Dante spam, like, for right now, that deck's kind of like, you can make your Beatrice still, and that's okay, but, you can't just go like Dante, Break Sword, Leviair, like, bullshit anymore. Like, it's crazy to think that something like that, like, everyone had this outcry for Dante to get hit, and now the game mechanics are going to hit Dante outright without us even needing to.
Exactly, and, I mean, sitting here talking about decks, though, like, obviously there's more integral things in the format. Like we touched on the extra deck, a lot of the problems are being self-contained by the regulations of the rules. You know, but one thing that they didn't hit, though, motherfuckers, is fucking water.
The deck that won't die.
Oh, how can that deck be so fucking resilient? Like,
I don't know.
No other deck in the game besides Gladiator Beast has had that level of resilience to it.
Mm-hmm. It's been what now? 5 years? No, 4. Wait, no.
It was what, 2013?
2013, yeah, so it's been 4 years. That's insane.
And they're not going to get any new support. Like, Atlanteans are done, technically, in terms of their arc.
Well, unless it's indirect support, kind of like, with, like, Totally Awesome. But,
well, yeah.
But, I mean, Bahamut Totally Awesome is, like, gone now in Link Summon format. I mean, you can't do it.
Not very well.
I mean, not very well, yeah. I shouldn't say you can't do it. But yeah, I mean, and especially too in a slow format, water does not slow down at all by these changes. Water can still shit on you and OTK you going second, and that might be one of the best decks of the format, at least like as soon as links are released. Because
Water's adaptability in terms of having Gamma Seal at their disposal, having Undyne to just take care of any threat, fucking Deep Sea Diva. At this point, they might even... Konami, I could see moving Deep Sea Diva off of the list. Because they're like, well, you can't really do anything with it, though. Yep. Like, there's going to be a couple things that are going to slip through the cracks because Konami's just going to be like, they didn't have enough time to test everything, which usually has been the problem in the past. And I think when they're looking at water, a few people are going to be like, hey, don't do that. But I think a lot of the real players in this game are going to just stare at water and go, buy max rarity water, guys. Invest.
Yeah. And you actually made a good point about Undyne as well, because since the format's going to be slower, people can actually go back to the Undyne build, because even though it's like a little bit less consistent because you're running controllers and stuff, the Undyne build's power, I think, is much greater.
I mean, you get access to fucking Lure of Darkness in your deck. It's pretty fucking good. I mean...
when you already have Moray on top of it, so...
I mean, you're going to be valuing your level 5 Synchro play a little bit more now if you go the Diva... Or no, you're level 3.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
But the cool thing is Tatsunoko, like, you can sync with stuff in your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, it doesn't even matter that it takes up your one extra deck slot. So then you're just like, okay, I'll just get rid of whatever excess things I don't need to make, like, I don't know, like Leo or some shit.
And as we said, Water doesn't need fucking links. Doesn't give a fuck. Like,
doesn't.
I think Leo is going to be a big problem card outside of being Kaiju'd away. Mm-hmm. A lot of decks do not have that removal aspect at the moment, like, besides, obviously, Kaiju Slumber, Kaiju...
Well, because we're moving back to this format where cards are targeting, especially, like, with Zodiac, like Book of Moon, Compulse, Trident, even, all these targeting type cards, Leo's just, impervious to all of that. So, dealing with a 3100 beater without targeting is pretty good.
I could see a resurgence of, heroes in general, like... Obviously, it's not going to be such a stress on Dark Law, but things like Absolute Zero.
Ab-Zero. And Miracle Fusion.
Yeah, Ab-Zero Miracle Fusion is... If you guys remember the older, slower formats...
Oh, man.
God, just having an Ab-Zero on the opponent's field, you're like, well, I got to waste my boss monster to fucking kill it. Oh, wait, it kills me too.
And it's Ab-Zero is when it leaves the field.
Yeah,
So if it gets Kaiju'd, it will still go off.
And your opponent still has the fucking Kaiju. Oh my god.
Just... And you mentioned a point with heroes, though. Like, heroes can still just revolve around Dark Law because they just play their Dark Law in their extra deck slot and, set all their back row. And they're just like, okay, come at me, You
Kaiju'd away.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. But still, but then you're just... But then they have, like, 5 back row to go through.
I know, but going through 5 back... Oh, I played Stun. I know what throwing gadgets into back row looks like, right? Like, I wish I had red gadgets here just to throw at my screen.
I'm surprised you don't just have them at your disposal on the desk.
Nah, dude, they're somewhere else. But no, like, you say 5 back row is a threat, and I'm like, but Gadget. Since we're going into a slower format, kind of changing like a card that could come off the list though, Avarice coming back would enable so many decks in and in itself. Because you have to remember, in slower formats, Avarice massively rewards the slower pace decks.
It does.
And before this video, me and Simo were talking about, like, obviously, we don't know what's going to move off of the list. There will be one of the biggest massive ban list shifts in the game's history because of this.
Except Kieran.
Fuck that guy.
we're like 99% sure Kieran's going.
Kieran's essentially a fucking boss monster at this point. That thing, like, can just die. No, because no, dude, that's even worse. You pendulum summon it from the extra deck, bounce it back to your hand, you can place it in the monster zone. The
coming
fuck?
up with new tactics every day.
Dude, one unstoppable Yu-Gi-Oh combo. Place pendulum scale, pendulum summon Kieran.
Yep.
Nice deck.
Have fun. Good luck. Extend handshake.
Also, we were talking about, me and John mentioned Brilliant Fusion. Being able to just go Trick Clown with the additional normal. That gives you 3 links right away.
Yep.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, people like, but Brilliant Fusion's going to be bad. I think Brilliant's going to be one of the most OP combo cards in that entire meta.
Brilliant Fusion is still one of the most OP combo cards, like, in existence, but it's just, like, it's almost too slow right now, unless you're playing, like, ABC. It's the only thing that matters in.
But the problem is, though, how slow are we going to get here? Because talking about decks, though, Lightsworn could be a good deck, but how slow of a tempo do we need to get there?
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, like, Lawnsworn, that'd be a name. Lightsworn Infernoid with, like, grass, like, does not care about this list at all, or does not care about this mechanic at all. Because you can just spam 3 wolves, spam your Infernoids, just, like, whatever.
And you have fucking a card named Fairy Tale Snow.
And yeah, like, all you need is, like, Snow, and, like, Minerva's, like, the only card you need.
I feel like Minerva
that can just be your... They just rename your link slot Minerva. That's like all it should be.
Well, you also have to remember, like, do you want to play you can get cheeky here and still play the Barrage engine in Infernoid.
Yeah, you can.
And you'll still do your combo, and you'll just end with a big fatty Infernoid.
Yep.
Link monsters don't have levels.
They don't.
Science.
Oh man.
How many Link
Let's
monsters?
talk about Can we talk about Cosmo? I think Cosmo's going to be interesting as well.
So, just in terms of not inflating Yuri Diaz's ego any more than it already is, I understand Cosmo is a good deck. I know what Cosmo is going to do, but I think Cosmo is going to have the same weakness that pretty much every other boss monster of this format is going to have.
Kaiju.
And, well, besides Kaiju, there's still 4 Solemns.
Yeah, that too.
And, I mean...
And there's board wipes.
Yep. So... being able to attack with Farm Girl's still good. Teleport's still at 1, right?
Teleport's at 1.
So, I mean, Tin Can in phase is still going to be a problem. And same thing with Massive Call, the Haunteds, and Oasises. I mean, I can see it.
Yeah, because Dark Destroyer is still Dark Destroyer, even though it's only at 1. And it has the same thing with what we were talking about, Leo. It's untargetable. And it's not even an extra deck monster.
But you know what deck is really scary, though?
Shoot.
Motherfucking Blue Eyes White Dragon. Fucking Spirit in that zone.
Spirit's all you need in that deck. We were actually talking about that in Seattle.
No.
Like, Blue Eyes is amazing.
Blue Eyes is going to be the scariest fucking deck of that format. Your opponent's going to go Sage, Effect, add Effect Failure. You're going to be like, oh, nah. And then they're going to be like, Alternative?
Yep. And with the amount of draw power and, like, the search power that deck has, like, it's really easy to make Spirit.
And you're going to even want to kill yourself even more if, like, they can make the Tachyon turn 1 and, like, actually do the Amorphage lock, because you're going to be like, great, I have to outplay 2 things. A 4,000 beater and fucking Arcbrave.
And then if they can actually go back to running, like, Phoenix Wing Wind Blast then, too. So then they can play back. So then... so then... they could run, like, Wing Blast, they could run Strike, they could run any of that stuff.
Yeah, a controlled-based Blue Eyes deck, because Return of the Dragon Lords is fucking retardo. Being able to just quick remove it from the graveyard. You have access to just an entire toolbox. Even seeing Azure Eyes be tagged out into is going to be scary, because it's like, you can't do anything about me.
Then your board wipes don't do anything.
I mean, obviously you have a kaiju for that, but that's besides the point. Like, you know, we don't know what Konami's going to do to the kaijus. They could all receive a errata and be worthless pieces of toilet paper at this point, or they could all limit them. You know, it's all based on the betterment of the game. But
yeah, I think it's like a really interesting like there's an interesting like duality here because you have like while we're in this crazy format of like break my board deck, like the kaijus are always going to be like the best answer for the most part. But then like as we slow down, kaijus almost become like too good because like being able to answer like slow formats with kaijus is almost like just the best power play that you can possibly do.
But then you have to answer the kaiju.
But I mean, in a slow format, that shouldn't be too difficult to answer.
I don't think we're going to go into like the slowness of cards in hand mattering and card advantage, but I definitely see the point with the kaijus though. But the question is, if we're going into a slower format and your opponent has essentially forced you into an equal resource game though, and you have to use your kaiju to answer it, if you don't have a resource to answer your kaiju, the attack points on that thing are going to be a problem.
It's true, but then since we're going to be going into a somewhat slower format, I mean, we're already seeing the resurgence of the mirror forces as is. If we're going into this kind of format, mirror force is like, I mean, battle traps galore. Let's go.
Battle traps don't affect spirit, though.
That's true. God damn it. And if they do, you have Return of the Dragon Lords engraved.
Oh, did we mention the fact that we haven't activated a Return of the Dragon Lords this turn? I'll bring back my alternative who has 3,000 attack points that can destroy a monster for free and synchro into a monster that can attack.
Did I mention I have my Dragon Spirit of White that can pop your mirror force that's set face down?
Did I also mention the fact that I have 2 White Stone of Ancients in the graveyard for double end phase effects because we're that good? God, that deck, fuck that
Start investing in Blue Eyes, everyone.
Fuck that shit. You know what else is going to be good, though? Shout out to Jobber, because Jobber can play Barrier Stun.
Barriers. You can play Barrier Stun now. There was Barrier Stun at day 2 in Seattle.
I know, but do you know how scary a stun deck is in a slower format, though?
Yeah, because yeah.
Oh, man. Wings is going to be so ridiculous as a card.
And Sword.
Yep. Just things that prevent your one monster from dying is going to be overly valued in that format.
Mm-hmm.
That's not all, folks. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Please check out my Cardfight Vanguard channel, VanCole40. You guys will get an insight on our playtesting sessions. And please check out the Zodiac Duelist TV Twitch stream. That way you guys can follow the House of Champions and MCole40 interactions. Please check out MCole Games for all of your guys' trading card game needs. And if you guys enjoyed this content, please check out my Patreon in the description. Every bit helps to the creation of these videos. One step at a time in improvement, and that's the goal of this channel. Alright guys, have a good time, and thanks for watching.